There is a part of you that decides how much money you are allowed to have. Not how much you want, not how much you deserve, but how much you unconsciously believe is appropriate for someone like you. This part of you is not logical. It is not rational. And it is not conscious. It is an archetype. Carl Jung introduced the concept of archetypes as universal psychological patterns that live in the collective unconscious. They are ancient inner structures that shape how we think, feel, behave, and interpret reality. You do not consciously choose your archetypes. You absorb them. You inherit them. You live through them. And one of the most powerful archetypes operating silently in your life is your wealth archetype. This archetype determines how you earn money, how you hold money, how you lose money, and how safe or unsafe wealth feels inside your body. Most people believe their financial struggles are external. They blame the economy. They blame opportunity, education, timing, or luck. But psychology tells a different story. According to Jungian theory, what we repeat compulsively is rarely a conscious choice. It is an unconscious pattern seeking expression. Your bank account is not just a financial record. It is a psychological autobiography. Every person operates from a dominant wealth archetype, whether they are aware of it or not. And until you identify yours, it will quietly control your financial destiny. Let us explore the most common wealth archetypes. The first is the survivor. The survivor archetype is ruled by fear, not dramatic fear but chronic low-level fear. Fear of instability. Fear of loss. Fear of not having enough. This archetype often forms in childhood environments marked by scarcity, unpredictability, or emotional insecurity. Even if money was present, the emotional atmosphere was tense. Bills created anxiety. Unexpected expenses caused panic. Money conversations carried stress. As adults, survivors may earn money consistently but never feel safe. They save obsessively yet feel poor. They avoid risks, even healthy ones. They prioritize security over growth. From a Jungian perspective, this archetype is rooted in the shadow child, a part of the psyche frozen in survival mode. Wealth feels dangerous to the survivor because wealth represents change. And change threatens safety. The second archetype is the martyr. The martyr believes that money must be earned through suffering. This belief is deeply embedded in many cultures, religions, and family narratives. Hard work equals virtue. Ease equals laziness. Wealth equals moral compromise. Psychologically, the martyr gains identity through sacrifice. They overgive. They undercharge. They exhaust themselves. Unconsciously, abundance feels wrong because it threatens their sense of worth. If life becomes easier, who am I? Jung described this as ego identification, when the ego attaches meaning to pain. For the martyr, wealth feels like betrayal of family, culture, or moral values. The third archetype is the saboteur. This archetype allows progress only up to a certain point. Momentum builds. Opportunities appear. Success approaches. And suddenly something collapses. Missed deadlines. Impulsive decisions. Self-doubt disguised as logic. Jung described this as resistance to individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. Growth threatens the familiar identity. The saboteur protects the old self by destroying the new one before it stabilizes. This pattern often originates in early experiences where success led to punishment, envy, or rejection. The psyche learns that success equals danger. The fourth archetype is the pretender. The pretender appears confident but feels fraudulent inside. They fear exposure. They fear being seen as unworthy. They fear being judged. This archetype is related to what modern psychology calls imposter syndrome, but Jungian psychology goes deeper. The pretender is split between the persona, the social mask, and the shadow, which holds shame and unworthiness. Financially, this leads to anxiety around visibility, overcompensation, and burnout. Wealth amplifies exposure, and exposure feels threatening. The fifth archetype is the dependent child. This archetype waits for permission, for rescue, for validation. Money feels external, something given, not created. This pattern often forms in environments where autonomy was discouraged and mistakes were punished. As adults, wealth feels dangerous because it represents separation, and separation feels like abandonment. These archetypes are not moral failures. They are adaptive responses. Jung emphasized that the psyche always seeks protection, not truth. Your wealth archetype is not trying to harm you. It is trying to keep you safe based on outdated emotional information. The problem is not that you have an archetype. The problem is that the archetype is unconscious. When unconscious, it controls behavior automatically. When conscious, it becomes something you can work with. Modern neuroscience supports this. Behavioral finance research shows that financial decisions are primarily emotional, not rational. The limbic system often overrides the prefrontal cortex when money is involved. Emotion beats logic. This is why affirmations alone fail. This is why strategy without identity change collapses. You cannot outthink an archetype. You must integrate it. Integration in Jungian psychology means bringing unconscious material into awareness, not to destroy it, but to understand it. There is something crucial most people never realize. Your wealth archetype does not live only in your thoughts. It lives in your body. This is why financial patterns feel automatic. Why your chest tightens when you think about raising prices. Why your stomach drops when unexpected money arrives. Why excitement about success quickly turns into anxiety. According to Jung, the unconscious does not speak in words. It speaks in sensations, images, impulses, and emotions. Modern trauma psychology confirms this. Researchers like Bessel van der Kolk demonstrated that unresolved emotional experiences are stored somatically. The body remembers what the conscious mind forgets. So when wealth, visibility, or expansion approaches, your nervous system reacts first, not your intellect. This is why two people can receive the same opportunity and respond completely differently. One feels energized. The other feels overwhelmed. The difference is not intelligence. It is archetypal conditioning. Your wealth archetype formed long before you understood money. It was shaped when you watched your parents react to bills. When you sensed tension at the dinner table. When you felt guilt for wanting more. When you learned that standing out could lead to criticism or rejection. Jung called this the personal unconscious layered upon the collective unconscious. Your archetype is personal, but its structure is ancient. For thousands of years, wealth meant power, and power meant danger, exile, envy, violence, responsibility for others. Your nervous system still carries echoes of this history. This is why wealth often triggers fear of being seen, being judged, being isolated, being responsible for others, or being blamed if something goes wrong. These fears are not irrational. They are inherited psychological survival strategies. But what once protected you may now be limiting you. Jung warned that what remains unconscious becomes destiny. Until you bring your wealth archetype into awareness, you will unconsciously recreate familiar financial outcomes. This explains what psychologists call the financial set point. No matter how much someone earns, they tend to return to a familiar emotional level of wealth. Earn more, spend more. Receive more, lose more. Grow, then collapse. Not because of irresponsibility, but because the psyche seeks emotional equilibrium. True financial transformation happens only when the archetype itself evolves. And evolution does not happen through force. It happens through integration. Integration means asking new questions. What does this part of me fear? What is it trying to protect? What does it believe will happen if I truly succeed? When you do this, something shifts. The survivor learns safety without scarcity. The martyr learns worth without suffering. The saboteur learns growth without punishment. The pretender learns confidence without the mask. The dependent child learns autonomy without abandonment. This is not self-help. This is depth psychology. This is why surface-level money advice fails. Because wealth is not a skill problem. It is an identity problem. You cannot hold what you do not feel safe becoming. In the next video, we will explore how childhood money trauma forms these archetypes and how early emotional experiences silently control adult financial behavior. Until then, observe. Notice your reactions to money. Notice your emotions around success. Notice the stories that appear when opportunity arises. These are not flaws. They are signals. And awareness is already the beginning of transformation.